Next on The Broadway Show, he's a genius of jazz. I'm sitting down with a star of A Wonderful World, the Louis Armstrong musical. Also ahead, The Eyes Have It. We're talking about the new Broadway musical, Tammy Faye.
I'm independently owned and complicated, and no, I don't need a man to feel emancipated.
And an exclusive musical performance from one of the stars of the Shuck National Tour.
Ain't gonna shuck itself.
I'm Tamsen Fidel, and this is The Broadway Show. It's The Broadway Show, the place to find the biggest shows and stars of Broadway. I'm Tamsen Fidel. Another blockbuster Broadway opening to tell you about. It's been called the greatest American play ever written. It's a revival of Our Town, and Our Town for Our Times. And it's directed by the great Kenny Leon. We hit the red carpet with the stars on opening night.
Kenny's the most wonderful leader, and the play is so damn good that both of those things together have made it such a joy to be a person who's in touch with everybody in the cast and kind of responsible for setting up every scene. It's been the most pleasurable pressure I've ever been under. I just love it.
It's this wonderful connection with the audience. So it feels like we're sharing the space. We're not necessarily performing. We're just sharing these words and sharing these feelings that are very powerful, that they stand the test of time.
When we do it in the room, we don't have any idea how it's going to impact people. And then now in this, it's just people are in a dark room sitting next to each other, and we can hear the emotion just pouring from the audience.
It's my favorite play. I've seen Paul Newman. I've seen Spalding Gray. I saw the David Cromer production. I have seen them all, and I can tell you, with this production and doing it with the great Jim Parsons and this incredible cast, I have heard things in this play that I thought I knew, and I didn't.
One of the great things about it is Kenny Leon's vision for the play as a very sort of new and dynamic interpretation of the play. I mean, it's Our Town all the way, but it feels fresh and new and like a new play in some ways, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. It's a beautiful cast.
I hated Our Town. I grew up in the American South, and what I would see about Our Town, it was like the people did not look like me, they didn't sound like me. And then many years later, I discovered all the universality in it, and I was like, oh, wow, so that's why I cast it the way I did. That's why I embraced spirituality the way I did. And I think the more people that find themselves in this work, the more they appreciate what Thorne Wilder did when he sat down and the page was blank.
As many people as we can get to come hear these words, it's like a religious experience. To me, it's an honor.
It's a Wonderful World. Tony winner James Monroe Iglehart is back on Broadway playing Louis Armstrong in A Wonderful World at Studio 54. Let's just dive in. Are you still learning new things about Louis Armstrong or about his life?
Yeah, I think that things, now we're just learning like little bitty things. Like, you learn this giant arc of the man. But then once you start getting into the weeds, you start going, well, was he there at that time? And if he was, can we do that? Mm-hmm. So it's little nitpicky things. Now also, we have a dialect coach. So now it's like not just getting the voice, but actually getting the way he said things. Like, we say heard and he say hood. I talked to my girl, and I was hurting it this first time, and it's first and heard. You're like, holy crap, and I got to change the way my lips talk, just so I can, really, the voice is one thing, but to actually talk like the man is something else. So listening to tons of interviews, or listening to the way he sings, or what words he extends in songs and what words he doesn't when he's speaking, it's very interesting.
This is told from the point of his 4 wives.
To a certain extent.
Okay.
Certain things have changed.
Okay.
When we were out of town, it was definitely narrated by the wives, and we've kind of shifted more to the wives are with him definitely, and there's a very strong presence. But Louis kind of telling his story, and the reason why he is because we found out that he's one of the only jazz legends that wrote his own autobiography. And he had this specific need to tell his story, and so we were like, "Eesh." Well, we want to, honor that, but we also wanted to give the wives a very strong voice because without them, Lewis would not be who he is. So the wives have a very strong voice in each chapter, and we're kind of going through his, his version of the story. As he told the stories, they morphed over time. So we're kind of doing that moment of how he wanted to tell a story, and the wives are kind of like, no, that's not what happened.
But I love that. I love that you're bringing their stories to light, and then people are going to know those names.
They have to.
They have to know those names.
They have to, but it's, in his case, it is so true that behind every great man is a great woman, and in his case, there were 4.
We're taking a look at another one of the amazing shows soon to be headed to Broadway. Lashes, liner, and so much more. The story of televangelist icon Tammy Faye Bakker on Broadway this fall. Tammy Faye features a stacked cast and songs from Elton John and Scissor Sisters frontman Jake Shears.
Well, first of all, I've just been a massive fan of Tammy Faye since I was a little kid. I grew up in a Christian household. I was a very precocious child, and when the scandal broke, I was probably about 8 years old, and I was very plugged into it. Tammy Faye, she and her husband started a children's puppet ministry, which they ended up growing into the biggest ministry in the country, PTL. They built an empire, and through some greed and some mishaps and scandal, it all fell apart. The story is fascinating. She's a fascinating person. The world that they built is one of the craziest stories. It's hard to believe it was real. And this is the musicalized version, of course. Also, just getting to do it with Elton, initially asking me to join him on it. I take that very, 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 very seriously.
It's kind of what you dream about, starting with the Elton John songs and the lyrics by Jake Shears, which are just so smart and great rock songs and great musical theater songs. It skirts that line perfectly. And then this British creative team, I've been so excited to kind of get to know Rupert Gould and everyone across the board, all the way up to Katie Braben, Olivier Award winner, 2-time Olivier Award winner, who is leading the charge. She's unbelievable. I think there's something about the eyelashes and the mascara that will lead people to believe that this is going to be campy. And that was the biggest surprise for me reading the script, how not campy it was, but still very funny. But it's a humor that comes from recognizing hypocrisy and recognizing human behavior. We're fools, many of us. Jim Bakker is no exception. And then you have the center is Tammy Faye, and she's no fool.
These figures always seem like kind of cartoons and kind of simultaneously not serious, but also really dangerous. And what has been surprising me time after time is how sincere it is at the same time that it's very satirical and really, looks with a pretty frank eye at some reprehensible behavior. Whatever they think they're coming to see, I guarantee it's more than that.
I feel incredibly lucky to be in this position, to be playing someone like Tammy Faye, who's just the most extraordinary character. Tammy Faye, I feel like she is so reactive, like she's in the moment, so she just reacts to things. She's an incredibly empathetic person. She is, there are no limits to her love. She is not non-judgmental and an inclusive person. I think that people will be singing the songs when they leave. I really hope they take the heart of the piece. I think it's so funny in moments and it's so heartbreaking in others. It does take you on a real ride, which is kind of what Jim and Tammy's story is, a ride. Like it was a highs and lows of drama, and so I hope people go on that with us and truly experience the emotions that they all went through.
Let's hear it for New York. The hit songs of Alicia Keys are now on Broadway, just a few blocks from where the singer-songwriter grew up. It's Hell's Kitchen. It's time to take a walk with the Broadway star, so let's send it out to Charlie Cooper.
Keisha, it
Yes.
is an honor to be walking you to work.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm just so grateful that you made the time because you're literally in between shows
in
right
between
now.
shows, yes.
What's it feel like for you? Because you grew up, born and raised in New York City.
Yeah.
And you are one of the main characters in a show where New York is a major character.
That's right.
What's it feel like for you? Does this feel like a full circle moment?
It absolutely feels like a full circle moment. I went to high school 2 blocks from here.
Insane.
One of my best friends grew up in the building that we're singing about and talking about in Hell's Kitchen. So I've known that building since I'm 14 years old.
Wow.
You know, so it definitely is full circle.
I know that
Yeah.
this is a love story
Yeah.
between a mother and
And
her daughter.
Yes.
And I know that you play such a maternal role or maternal part in this as Allie's piano teacher,
Yeah.
but then also off stage as well.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that special role that you play.
We have a lot of young folks in this show, and the vast majority of our cast is making their Broadway debut.
Yeah.
And so I have been kind of a mother figure almost my whole life. And the kids just started calling me mama.
I love
You
that.
know, they're all calling me mama. And I just embrace it.
Yeah.
You know, when I was younger, I used to fight it because I wanted to be the cute ingenue. I didn't want anybody looking at me that way. But it's an honor. It's an honor when, especially when young people want to be around you, number one, and
Yeah.
number two, when they're interested in what you have to say. I've tried to hang with them a little bit, but I can't. I have to go to bed.
I hear that.
I can hang for a little bit, and it's like, bye, mama's leaving.
We talk about these powerful moments in the show, and I think about the song Perfect Way to Die.
Yes.
And the visuals that are coupled with that.
Yes.
I don't think that anyone, at least not for me, I never thought a moment like that would exist in a show like this.
I agree.
It's just so deep. It speaks to, I imagine, everybody in the audience.
Yes.
When you read that moment in the script, or just during rehearsals, or any of that, talk to us a little bit about how that impacted you.
You know, at first it made me weepy. I feel that it's a privilege to
Yeah.
sing that song, especially at this time in our history and all that we've been through. And secondly, because I have a black son.
Yes.
Who I had to protect in a different kind of a way growing up. It wasn't just, you know, I was just mom and we could just, you know, dance through the lilacs and go
Right.
on with life. There were things that he needed to know in order to survive because I couldn't be there 24/7. And so I love the fact, it is a privilege to me that I get to sing that song and we get to see some of what that song represents because it's only a small part. But today, it was so interesting, doing the matinee today, I was looking at Malia and I got emotional because she's a 21-year-old girl, you know? And at one point, I'm thinking about Sandra Bland, you know? So all of those things are reminders and touchstones that I can think about and utilize, and I think people are responding to that.
It's been, I mean, decades at this point, and you have that Tony nominee under your belt. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What does this moment feel like? And look who's to your right.
So the Tony nominee moment, that's hilarious. So here we are. This represents what the 7-year-old inside of her wanted to be. At 7 years old, I started to dream about being on Broadway, about being on television, and what that would look like. And then as I went to Broadway shows through school as a kid, I was a public school student from New York City.
Yeah.
And you see these faces on the side and it's like, wow, look what those people are doing. So this is the first show. I've done 10 Broadway shows and this is the first one where my face is on the building. And it blows me away. The first day I walked by here and it was up, I started weeping.
Yeah.
You know, and not just because my face is on the side of the building. It's about what it represents to me and the work that I've put in and the desire to be that face that another little black girl will walk by and say, man, look at that lady. She has locks too, and she's in this beautiful wrap on her head. She looks like my mom, my
Beautifully
auntie, my
melanated,
grandma.
yes.
All the melanin, honey, that some little girl will say, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Thanks so much for staying with us for this latest episode of The Broadway Show. So glad you're here.
Hail, mighty young rich and wise, rebel
The Jazz Age, alive and well on Broadway, The Great Gatsby has it all. Bootleggers, flappers, tappers, incredible costumes, and much more. Here's Beth Stevens with another edition of Building Broadway.
Tony-winning costume designer Linda Cho has designed 3 shows on Broadway this season: Harmony, Doubt, and now The Great Gatsby. We're here at the Broadway Theater to see her lush designs for the new musical set in the Roaring '20s. When people think of the 1920s, I think that most people think of a flapper, and they think of a very specific silhouette.
Yes.
Were you adhering to that?
We have some of those. We have definitely the fringe skirts. Some of the things about the 20s that we think about the classic silhouette is the slim hips with the flat chest, and humans are not all built with those proportions. So just celebrating everyone's shape and saying, you know what, I know in the 20s we did the drop waist and that particular silhouette, but let's cheat. Let's give everyone a snatch waist, and let's make sure that everyone can do a big kick so that we can accommodate this amazing choreography as well. So we do all these cheats. I call it cheater 20s. Like we're doing 20s, but we're cheating in every way that I feel is necessary.
Tell me how you had your costumes integrate with the choreography and with the direction.
So seeing, for instance, there's a number called Shady, and they're dancing in trench coats. And to accommodate this idea with the swinging coats, I was thinking of bats, quite frankly. Sometimes I use flowers or animals or jewels or whatever as sources of inspiration.
And you also designed the headpieces, which have a very specific Art Deco feel.
Yes. Headpieces I've learned from various shows in the past, they have to be lightweight and they have to be secure. They're gorgeous and completely unpractical for dancing. So
right.
Those are the things that I got to put everything that I've ever wanted in a big, crazy 1920s party on stage.
This is a Broadway show, and we're back in just a few. Welcome back to the Broadway show. I'm Tamsin Fidel. Let's get back to it.
We were cornbread, we were cornbread.
Aw shucks, Broadway's Farm to Table Fable is coming soon to a city near you.
Now here's another exclusive musical performance from the Broadway.com studio.
Hi, my name is Mickey Abraham. I am playing the role of Lulu on the first national tour of Shucked, and this is independently owned. I'm independently owned and operated, the only thing around here that's incorporated. I do it all and it's fine by me. I'm a one-woman whiskey dynasty. I'm independently owned and liberated, and I think sleeping alone is underrated. Don't need a man for flatteries. Got a corn cob and some batteries, and I never say I do if I really don't. If settling means settling down, then I won't. Being a wife just ain't the life for me. I'm independently owned and complicated, and no, I don't need a man to feel emancipated. The boys around here sure ain't much help. This corn ain't gonna shuck itself. There might be someone that I ain't met yet. And no disrespect to Miss Tammy Wynette, I can't stand by my man, he'll have to stand by me. I'm independently owned and modulated, and every man that I meet is just intimidated. I will change who I always been, a W-O-M-A-N, W-O-M-A-N. I'm independently owned and celebrated. I'm independently owned and educated. I don't depend on anybody but me, and I live my life independently. So Operated, modulated, celebrated, incorporated, liberated, educated, underrated, motivated, advocated, intimidated, independently.
And that's going to do it for us. But for tickets, or if you want to check out extended cuts of all these interviews, head over to Broadway.com. I'm Tamsen Fidel, and this is The Broadway Show.